we can't understand another person's experience. So all we can do is ask to hear their story, to empathize, and to put that into our own narrative to help to feed what we're trying to put out into the world. Hey guys, Corey here, AuDHD Act 2. There's gonna be a lot of generalisms in this video, so this is from my experience. I know that a lot of people hear the word autism and they start to, envision whatever their preconceived notions are, whatever they've experienced, maybe even some stereotypes from television, and there's some funny ones on TV. There's lots of things that we've all kind of been through and that make each of our lenses different, each of our view of the world different, from me to the guy next door, or me to the guy across the world, or just my dog laying on the floor over here. Each of our different lived experiences means we see everything differently. So I'm going to explain some of the things that people have brought to my attention that they have wrong, at least about my autistic experience. And I'm going to share the reality and try to explain some of those and what my reality is. And again, this is going to be useful for people who are perhaps in a similar, have some kind of similarities to my life and my level of needs and my masking and my experience. This is not going to apply to everyone. So I hope you can find something in here that is useful. And I hope to all of those of you that are here because you have someone autistic in your life, thank you for taking time and watching videos and learning more. It means so much to them, I'm sure. But this will help you, I believe, to kind of see that we're not so different as you might think. It's just a slightly different approach. I don't think I do many things in any given day that other people don't do regularly. I just maybe have a little more intentional, assessment, reassessment, adjustment than maybe other people do. Maybe it's front of mind more for me than and a little more subconscious maybe for you. Again, making some generalisms here and some assumptions, but this has been my experience. I'm 43 years old. I've been autistic my whole life, but people only know that recently. And they all say some form of, I had no idea, you can't tell, you don't seem autistic, are you sure? That one was fun. I actually giggled a little bit on that one. Are you sure? For those of you who are under the impression that just the whole world is going autistic all of a sudden, no, the whole world has been not diagnosed. We went through our whole lives without a reason or without enough resources in my case. Like, I knew I was autistic as a teenager. I put the right label on it. I almost like pinned the tail on the donkey. I was totally ignorant and I just kind of happened upon it and then put it away for a long time. I'm gonna kind of jump into this because otherwise I'm gonna ramble all day long, but here are 10 different things that are part of the autistic experience, but probably not in quite the way you think. And so let's just jump right in. So number one is eye contact. If you've done any research into autism, you're gonna find that eye contact is difficult, that eye contact can be painful, that the autistic people will avoid eye contact. And then that is in very many cases absolutely true. In my case, you will not likely know that I'm avoiding eye contact because I'm not. I'm actually very intentionally making eye contact on a kind of timer. How do I explain this? So if I'm looking at you, you can bet that I'm either thinking of a countdown to where I need to be looking away because otherwise I will have been staring at you in the eyes too long. Or I'm looking away and okay, make eye contact again and break. And make eye contact again and okay, break. And it is an intentional practice. This is not subconscious. This is not like, oh, I noticed it got a little awkward and then I looked away. No, this is counting. This is trying to process poorly and counting. And as with delayed processing and all of these different things going on, you'll start to see, hopefully towards the end of this video, how these things compound. So yeah, I don't have a problem making eye contact in the way that you might think that you would be able to see. I have a problem making eye contact in that I know that the way I would do it naturally is not the way you want me to do it. And so I take time and I have practiced. It's been a long time. At 43, a lot of this stuff has been running pretty smoothly. If you've been on my channel, you may know that I had a neck issue. I've got titanium spacers in my neck now that, and I was paralyzed for about a month. I'm not paralyzed. I was into a wheelchair within this month period from healthy to wheelchair, and it ended up being, my spine was being blocked off at my neck, and so long story short, I have had to readjust a lot in the last couple of years. All of my adaptations that had become second nature and were just running in the background subconsciously, a lot of them now are back to the forefront. So the second thing that you're going to hear a lot about early on if you're researching autism is the employability, employment opportunities, the limited, many autistic people are not employed. And many are what, I don't know, the government, what people would consider unemployable. That is true. That is very true. There are a lot of people that just can't work, or at least not in a traditional sense, and it's very difficult to find employers that are willing to work with you and make the adaptations beyond what is just legally required, which is not much at all. Everything that I did that I learned that worked for me, I put into place, and I assessed and reassessed. And okay, so the one of the way I like to describe this is like Groundhog Day. So I am constantly trying to basically wake up the next day and make it a little bit better than the day before, and I do that a lot through routine. And now that I know about my ADHD, I recognize I've also sought novelty in fairly consistent ways, but I've sought novelty in a way that I made routine, if that makes sense. Like I built it into my plan. And so a lot of what I do is very much, let's do it again tomorrow. Let's do it again tomorrow. Like I constantly am assessing, and I think that helps a lot. If you can imagine, it's the shiny, happy side of rumination. Constantly improving. Like I don't talk as much about the other side of rumination, even though I very much do that as well, which is to constantly just assess and reassess the negative that has no benefit at all. And I'm working on that, but you got to take the good with the bad, and I've definitely got a lot out of assessing my day and the things that I can control and reshaping that day continuously. Back to employability and employment opportunities. I have been, let's just go through it. I was I worked at fast food, then I was a waiter, then I worked as a like medical tech assistant. I just did a lot of forms and paperwork and blood pressures and stuff when people came into the office. I performed drug testing. I was like a drug testing technician. I worked for a moving company. I was in the military. I worked as a machinist at an observatory at the top of this mountain. It was amazing. I worked for a cable company climbing telephone poles. I hated it. I worked for, I opened up a gym. And I was a strength and conditioning coach for a semi-professional basketball team in Colorado for a couple of years. I held 2 Colorado state powerlifting records. This is not employment, but I'm just now just listing like my resume. But like I have, you can do anything. You just have to stop. People won't make space for you. The things you want to accomplish are going to require you to make the space for yourself. You're going to have to adapt and you're going to have to adjust. And when the people you're dealing with adapt and adjust to, that's an amazing and beautiful thing. But if you go in and expecting that to happen, you are going to be disappointed. It's going to be on you. And when they join you, enjoy that. Enjoy the unexpected, human contact, human interaction. All right, so what else? So the another thing, we don't all like philosophy-inspired graphic tees with little birds that I drew. Oh. But if you do, check out the description. There's a link. I do make t-shirts. I have a little Etsy store. I like philosophy. That's about the best explanation I have for it. But like, subscribe to this video, share, guys, please help me out, and leave some comments below. Tell me if any of these things are ringing home, but we'll jump into the next one. I got notes on the floor if you haven't figured that out yet. I am not the kind of person, hi boo-boo. Oh, I clapped and she came. I'm not the kind of person that is memorizing all of this stuff. So, all right, so the third one, poor social skills. Yeah, I had poor social skills as a kid growing up, and I know a lot of autistic people fall into this category as well. And again, there's a whole range, a whole spectrum. But the fact is, within a few years, I learned enough masking skills and mimicry and blending and camouflage and any other label you want to put on it. But I learned to fit in. And it was acting, and it was pretending, and it is a skill set, and it is a skill set that pays dividends every day. Like, we all act, we all interact socially in ways that are both, what's the word I'm looking for? In ways that are both authentic and inauthentic. You cannot, and I'm speaking to the autistic people in the room right now, you cannot be 100% authentic all the time and not expect everyone to be pissed off. Like, they are just, that's not how the world works. You have to be empathetic and authentic, and you have to recognize what people are looking for, and people come into conversations looking for different things. And the more you can attune to what they really want versus what you want to get across, the better off you'll be. In my experience, that's the case kind of across the board. If people know you're trying to help them, some will take advantage. Very few, fortunately, very few, but many of them, most of them, nearly all of them will lean into that, and they will recognize that you are trying to be helpful, and it will pay off, and it will cause them to open up, and it will help you to get a deeper, connection with people, an understanding of them. It'll just help you in your social situations. And most of you know this, and you're working on it. And for those of you who aren't familiar with how autism works, it is not that we're bad at socializing. It's that we don't do it naturally with holistic or neurotypical people. We communicate well with each other, with other autistic people, other neurodivergent people. We tend to get on the same bandwidth fairly quickly. So it's something to work on and to be aware of, but also just to know, like, there will always be differences in communication styles, and that's okay. All right, so the number four one I have on my list here is romantic life. And I have had no lack of, romantic experiences in my life. I've been married. I'm in the middle of a divorce right now. I've got kids. I dated. I will say this, in therapy recently, I discovered that I think once did I ever actually ask anyone out, which is intimidating as a person who is, about to be single in the not too long from now. But yeah, I think a lot of people have been like, well, if he's not going to ask me, then I'll just ask him. And that's been fortunate for me. But it's something that I recognized recently and I'm dealing with. But I like connecting with people. And I know enough to know when I'm being weird, when I'm outside of like the expected lane. I know that there's like acceptable things and things that aren't acceptable, and I know enough to generally get by pretty well, but that's coming from a person who's been married for 18 years. And talk to me in a few months, year or two, whatever it is, when I'm on a date, and we'll see how well I'm adjusting it. We'll see. But all right, I'm going to jump into the next one here, looking at my floor notes. This is one of my favorites because it's so ridiculous. Autistic people don't have empathy. They're emotionless robots. That is so far from the truth. It is just absurd. I've always been, and I'm just starting to recognize this, to be honest with you. I've been in therapy for a while working on some of these things, but like, I feel other people's pain and I want to fix it. And to a problem, to a point where it's problematic, like I ignore what I need and I go and make them the priority. And that's not always a bad thing, except for, to an extent. And that is the line that's there that it says this is the healthy amount, is the line that I don't do well in recognizing. So I'll go way past it before I realize that, oh, wow, okay. So I am basically giving everything to this cause and not reserving anything for me. And I say that like cause, like, because I've noticed that it's not always just like a person or a romantic, it's not always like a romantic relationship. As a child, I did a lot to keeping an eye on my little brother because he got picked on. And I heard stories about my mom's childhood and the horrendous things, and that definitely like took root in my foundations for sure. But I have a lot of us have a difficult time being there for other people and for ourselves. And we've been told in many different ways, not usually directly, but in many different ways, that being there to help other people, it is going to get you better responses than having to require other people to help you. So we try not to need much and we try to give a lot. And that is definitely something that I have been doing. And so to say I have no empathy. But anyways, we have empathy. We also have processing issues and sensory issues and other things that may show up in ways you don't understand. And many autistic people have hyper empathy, and myself included, that is kind of hard to shut off sometimes. And to that point, like, I avoid certain social situations and certain interactions because I know I will feel what the other person is going through more than I want to. And I don't have, this is gonna sound really sad because I have people in my life that I value and that I interact with all the time, but I don't have friends. I don't have like dudes I hang out with. I don't have like, I've had the person I've been in a relationship with for a long time, and I had that before, and I have my family and I have the people I work with, but like I don't have a desire to just be like, I need more people in my life. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like I'm happy in solitude, not in complete solitude, but like my alone time doesn't upset me in any way, shape, or form. I know I can walk right out the door, get in my truck, and drive down to wherever and meet up with people. But I don't want to. The next one is poor proprioception, poor clumsiness, a lack of athleticism. This is common too. Again, this is a whole spectrum, but it doesn't define autism. Like that is, there are many autistic athletes, professional athletes. There are like, I spend time every day. It's one of my favorite ways to stim, and I'll touch on that in a minute, but is through fitness and through, doing pull-ups, doing dips, doing calisthenics, doing balance board work, doing all sorts of things. I can juggle. juggling, funny enough, was an independent study project I chose for myself the semester I all the time, like since the neck surgery, these tears are just there. This semester, I figured out I was autistic. I did an independent study project on juggling. Actually, yeah. I was out here juggling earlier. I still do it all the time. But I learned quickly that physical plus mental all right, I gotta talk to a camera. I gotta make these tears stop. Boo boo, here, you sit. 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 You can't sit on my lap. You're not tall enough. Sit. I learned quickly, thank you, that when I combined physical activity with whatever's going on, it helped a lot. And I think my body was basically trying to tell me, hey, you've got to stim in one way, shape, or another, because that stuff was suppressed my entire life. And until this year, when I unmasked and I started, good girl. Until this year, when I started unmasking in this past year, and like the stimming did increase. It is true what they say, when you take the mask off, like you can't put it back on all the way. Like there's things that are gonna come through, and you want them to. And I know now that all that physical activity and how much it helped me was, no, go lay down. Go lay down, thank you. All of that physical activity was like that tension that had been built up because I had just been suppressing all of the stimming, and I wasn't letting my body adapt the way it needed to. But what I did instead is sports. And I was varsity baseball, I was snowboarded, I got a couple concussions, so maybe I wasn't that great at it. But I've just always been active. I got my bachelor's degree in exercise and sports science. I mentioned earlier, I've got like a couple powerlifting records. I know how to move because I've known that movement matters to me. And so after this neck surgery I had a couple of years ago, when I mentioned like, everything in my nervous system was basically rebooted, and I had to relearn all my adaptations and all my adjustments and all of my things, the first thing I went to was balance work, because I'd spent years just lifting weights in the gym, just normal bro workout stuff, but I didn't want to compress and load my spine, and I wanted to ease back into things, and my neck is supposedly stronger than it was before because it's got titanium in it and it's all healed up now, and I don't have any restrictions, but I wanted to work on balance and mobility and flexibility and all those things. And so I got a balance board. I got a slack board that's got the like little slack line, and I've got all sorts of other tools that I can just use in my room. I have a gym outside that is starting to fill up with moving boxes as they're trying to empty this house. But I mostly use this stuff in my room. I do dips, I do pull-ups, I do things, because if I stop throughout my day when I'm working, and I'm privileged and blessed to have the opportunity to have this flexibility, but I can do a 90-minute sprint and then go do 10 minutes worth of dips and pull-ups and random things, or just jump off for 30 seconds to do one set, because that tension, intentionally placing that tension on my body, makes a difference. That control, being able to know that I want this to happen and I can make it happen. Like, that is important. And so that's kind of how stimming works for me. And I'm kind of leaning into this next one. So we're just going to go and jump right into stimming. But that's how stimming works for me. I've never been a hand flapper. So I mentioned there's about a year where people could have diagnosed my autism before I got really good at masking. The first year, first grade, I was a mess, like cried throughout the whole year, like rocking back and forth. I was very much lost in my mind. Like, I could not understand what was wrong with everybody. That's what I thought was going on. And they wanted to hold me back. And I had good grades, but they wanted to put me into a transitional class, which is where they put kids with learning disabilities and challenges that they don't know what to call yet. I had emotional issues. I had social issues. All of those things. And I was likely well on my way to a diagnosis, but that didn't happen because I had good enough grades to get pushed through, and my mom wouldn't let them hold me back. And then immediately in second grade, I was tested and put into the gifted program, and all the other stuff was ignored. But within that year, so by the time second grade started, I knew what I couldn't do. I knew I couldn't rock back and forth. I knew sitting there crying was going to be a problem. I knew that I could not be this crawl inside of myself and just get, like, I knew that wasn't going to happen. They were still going to sit there and laugh and point and call me and just be cruel, as kids are to things that are different. And so there was no stimming from that point on. I knew I had to suppress it. I knew I had to act more normal. I knew I had to fit in. I had to blend. I didn't stim. And it wasn't until later that I realized that I was stimming. I was just doing it in very different ways. I was definitely a toe clincher. I've always been, like right now my knee is bouncing. I've always been a knee bounce. Like, there are things that that I do now that I am aware of, but that I like that work really well. Like when I'm in the truck, I don't like to drive, especially since my neck surgery. The vibration, that is one of the things that seems to set off my sensory stuff, I guess, and it adds up quickly. However, I have found that if I put on something from my music, and this only works when no one is in the car, because otherwise I'm only going to be able to do this to an extent, and I'll have to like tone it down. But I'll put on one of my songs. So look up Same Songs if you don't know what that is. Like, I have a handful of songs that I just go to that are my same songs. Like, I'll play them over and over and over and over, and they rotate. But from one week to the next, my playlist is going to be real similar. And I do that because when I'm in the car, I turn that on and I tune into that, and I tune out of everything else. So that is kind of how I stim, and I do the same physically with the pull-ups and the push-ups and the dips, is I will remove all of the other physical tension by placing physical tension myself. I'll remove all the other noise and sensory chatter by choosing the song I want and turning it up and singing along with it. And I also do this thing that is very new to the past couple of years, since my surgery. And I call it my little conductor, but like my left hand dance is what I'm driving. It is, sometimes I'll notice it, other times I won't. Sometimes it'll be like, what is it doing? Like, I will just, it's ridiculous. I mentioned that the stimming, when you pull the mask off, a lot of things that you never would have let come out when you're not paying attention. And it's like like I broke the seal to the underworld or something. A little ghosts are coming out in the form of my dancing left hand. But like sometimes it's just like you just get into the music, but it is so. Just happens now. It is not like a conscious thing. It's like there are times where I'll do things. I am a leg rubber that helps. That's usually a sign that I'm a little bit stressed. But there's some things that are intentional and other things like this music thing that just kind of happen, and it's usually a good thing, because you do need some relief, and it's hard to explain, but it is like a relief. It's like a slow, steady exhale of a deep, deep breath, like letting some of this tension out. All right, so the next one, which is kind of how this video is going, is autistic people are known for annoying and long-winded responses, overpowering conversations. Usually this happens when we get caught in, because this does happen, but it happens usually when we get caught into one of our, pulled into a conversation about one of our special interests. And I can go on and on and on about several different topics, but I recognize it now because I've been working my entire adult life in all sorts of different scenarios, and I've been in so many social situations that I know now, like, what people don't want me to do, and they don't want me to spend 10 minutes explaining to them why I like painting on tiny little pieces of canvas that are this big. Yeah, they like to see the paintings, but they don't want to hear me tell them why I like it. And so I recognize that, and I think a lot of people, especially the high masking, high functioning, low needs, whatever, autistic people have turned that filter on to where they're like, okay, you can't talk for that long about one subject, people will not like you. And it's all the same. We just want to fit in. We want to be part of what's going on and not be called out and ridiculed in all of the things that we've all experienced, hopefully mostly in childhood, and have grown from, but it's all in there. It stays with you. One of the next points that I want to just make, and this is a little, I guess, off trend for this list, but so what you're going to find is, as you go out there into the workplace, is that there aren't going to be that many adaptations and adjustments and things that people are willing to do because of your autism. And don't get me wrong, there are some things that people have to do, and there are some amazing companies and bosses and things that are just fantastic. But for the most part, go in with the mindset that you need to make these changes and adjust and drive the plan for your success. You should try to get your supervisor, your manager, your boss, or your client, whatever it is, on board in some way, shape, or form, so that like this isn't like you don't want to go into burnout one day and like totally blindside them and be like, oh, I'm autistic, by the way, and I'm burnout, like, or make up lies. Like I think that's probably more common, is you just make up excuses or something. But like you've got to be, you want to be open, but in a way that works for you and in a way that feels comfortable for you. All right, so the last thing, and this is just to the autistic people in the room. No, you know what? No, it's not. It's to everybody. What your body is going to tell you what you need. Your body is going to tell you when you need rest. It's going to tell you when you have tons of energy and when you should sprint towards whatever goal and project you're working on. You need to listen. You need to focus on your rest and recovery, though, more so than ever, because you need to understand that as you are learning all of these things, and it is a little bit more stressful because you are learning right now, but as you're going through all of this, you need to have set aside equal amounts of time for later to recover, and sometimes more. And you need to recognize that through assessing yourself day in and day out. You need to say, okay, I am beat today. What did I do yesterday or the day before? Because there is delayed processing. There's all sorts of other challenges that don't show up in the moment, or that don't show up while you're masking, and that will show up later and will take their toll on you. So plan for rest. Don't just try to adapt and adjust and put rest in when you can. Plan for rest, schedule it, adjust your routine, which is going to be crucial for everything, is your routine. And just make sure that you're putting in enough time for you to recover from all of the things you're dealing with. Because now you're not just living the life you've been living, you're living it and applying a whole new lens to it and going through a lot of things differently. And you're gonna have people that understand that and people that don't. You're gonna have misconceptions, like some of the things we talked about in this list. And some of them will apply to you. Some of the stereotypes absolutely apply to me. Some of them absolutely do not. Adjust it to fit you. Do that every day. Groundhog Day. Make tomorrow a little bit better. Make your routine fit a little bit better. Make everything you're doing intentional with the goal of making your day better and better and better, and then being there for all of the things and all of the people that matter to you. And that's how you're going to do it, is by putting yourself as a priority and taking care of yourself and recognizing what feeds you, what drains you, and all the things in between. I hope you guys realize that, this is just my story. Again, this is generalisms. Every single autistic person has a different version of this, where I don't have this problem, but I have this. Or this is a challenge, but this is what I do to adjust. Ask questions. Ask their story. If you meet people and they're willing and open to talk about it, ask them to tell you about it. Don't be shy. If people are willing, then and if they're not willing, they'll tell you. Don't push. Don't try to pry it out of them. But a lot of us are willing to tell our story because it's not a cookie cutter story. It's not the same as anyone else. It's a story though that needs to be told, because the more of us that kind of open up and say, hey, this is me, this is my version of autism. It looks different than that version or that version or that version. Or it looks different than that channel and that channel and that channel. Every person on YouTube that's an autistic influencer, every person has a different story. All of them. Very different, very unique. And that's important. Having that variety and all of the different perspectives recognized is key to see that your vision and your version and my version for so long, my version of autism is wrong. It still is. It has to be, because there is no right. Whatever I see, I can't possibly imagine what somebody else is going through, 5 seconds away, much less 5 states away or 5,000 miles away. We can't understand another person's experience. So all we can do is ask to hear their story, to empathize, and to put that into our own narrative to help to feed what we're trying to put out into the world. So after all that, I would love to say this is an unedited video, but you don't have 4.5 hours to sit here and listen to me ramble on. So I'm gonna go get to editing and try to cut this down into something that's useful. But I hope you guys learned something from this. If so, please like, subscribe, share. Check out my Etsy store for philosophy-based graphic t-shirts with a chickadee on them. And enjoy your day.